Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of our Justice and Pieces guest speaker series. Today, we are joined by one of my colleagues here at Trios, David Fox, who is the business program coordinator. So, first of all, David, thanks so much for joining us, and perhaps maybe you can start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your journey to this role here.
Oh, well, thank you very much, and thank you very much for offering me this opportunity on your podcast series. Um, Briefly, I come from about 2.5 hours southeast of Toronto, for a very rural area of Ontario. I grew up in a family that places a very high degree of importance on education. Everybody was educators. Having said that, I got the opportunity to go study in Massachusetts because I played hockey, and I earned an accounting degree at this school, Nichols College in Massachusetts. Then I pursued my certified public accountant license while working at PricewaterhouseCoopers in Springfield, Massachusetts, and Hartford, Connecticut. I returned to Ontario and did my law degree at Western University. While I was at Western University, it was suggested to me based on my accounting background and kind of made some sense, and certainly looked to me to be a competitive advantage that I focus on tax. And so I took a number of courses in tax law, and I went through, I won't go through the whole process, but there's a process to get hired to Bay Street, big international law firms in Toronto. And I was hired to a law firm called Fasken Martineau, where for about 20, between Fasken and 2, 3 other firms, I gradually moved up in leadership. And I practiced for about 25 years international tax law. I always had a passion for education, and I got to a point where I said, well, geez, I'm either going to do it now or it's going to be much more difficult to do it. So I enrolled and I did a Master of Education at Wilfrid Laurier University and enjoyed that tremendously, and then started applying for jobs in education. And there's a lesson in that. I thought to myself, hey, I'm a CPA in the States. I'm a lawyer. I've practiced for 25 years in tax. I know a lot of people. Someone's going to hire me very quickly. Like, why not? Well, my ego took a bruising. And for students who are listening, 60 applications is what it took. 60 applications, I'll be honest with that, for me to get my first teaching position. So that's a lesson. Finally, about myself, I'm fortunate to be married to a lovely woman whom I met at university, and we have a 13-year-old daughter. And then they would be mad if I didn't include them. We also have 3 dogs.
There you go. So nice. No, it's so interesting, right? I mean, from going for hockey, right, and then you
Yeah.
got into accounting, into law, tax law, and then for 2 decades there in tax law, and then going into education, and again, it was sharing just the fact that that didn't just mean, hey, this
No.
person is going to be a great educator, right off the bat there. Um, so let's kind of go back maybe to the practice of law first, and then we could talk more about what you're doing in terms of the program. Now, law has certainly evolved over all these years, and I mean, where do you see kind of the practice of law? And I'm sure still people are looking to you and say, David, when are you to come back and run our tax department here, or come in and provide some guidance? But how have you found sort of that leaving of the practice of law? I mean, I don't know how many years now it's been, but where do you sort of see the direction and how things have been changing from when you first started to when you were sort of finishing off, or even to where we're at today?
Well, one thing that I would say that I think is changing, is continually changing, but I think it also is in line with what maybe we're seeing with younger generations in other professions too. there's much more, in my opinion, particularly these big law firms, but even at smaller law firms. And most law firms, remember, are smaller law firms. The idea that a lawyer is not just what you do, but who you are. It's part of your identity. And it's a very important part of many, many lawyers' identities. And so I think what I see is younger generations coming in and saying, yeah, I am a lawyer and I can do this work, but it's not who I am. It's what I do. And I don't just accept that I have to be at the office every single day for 12 hours. And on the weekend, I have a family, and I want to be with them and have dinner and do those types of things and live a life. So yes, I am a lawyer, but what new lawyers entering the profession, and I'm sure also law clerks and paralegals, what was expected, I think, of them and what they expected of themselves, I think is changing. And that's a change that is being forced on some of these very large and fairly traditional law firms.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of that, I mean, does that mean like the traditional billable kind of hour model of, we work these many hours and accordingly this is how much you're going to pay? Does that kind of evolve and need to change as well? Because people also want certainties, right? In terms of, okay, when I'm going to hire this firm, I want them to do A, B, and C.
Mm-hmm.
How much is that going to cost? And
Right.
if the answer is, just like when you're doing some repairs in your house, you're like, oh, it could be
Right.
this, it could be that. So who knows?
Right.
What have you seen there, or what can you know of in terms of how that's done?
Well, you're right in the sense that law firms, like other businesses, is that law firms are having to change. They're having to change the way they think about what a productive lawyer is. They're having to think about, whether lawyers need to be in the office all the time. After COVID, people, working from home, a lot of young lawyers want to work from home. Okay. And they have to, not just because of the desires of lawyers, but because of the business of law. Law firms and lawyers are having to rethink the economics of law. So many people, if you hear about how does a lawyer bill, how does a lawyer make money, they'll say, well, the billable hour. So for every hour of work you put in on this file, you'll docket time to that file. And we bill traditionally, and I think to this day, in 6-minute increments. So if I pick up the phone, have a phone call, that might be a 0.1. Okay. So then at the end of the period, whether it's the month, whether it's the transaction, we send out the invoice and it has a list of all the names and all the dockets and all the time, and then how much the rate is per hour for each lawyer. And then here's the total that you owe client. The billable hour is something that is also getting a fair amount of attention in the business of law. There are many clients who say, well, I don't want to be, I'll bring this transaction to you, but I want to know what you're going to do for me in terms of this transaction or in terms of this piece of work. So in effect, what we call request for proposals. Clients for large pieces of work, some, and these would be large clients, will say to different law firms, hey, this is what we anticipate. These are certain things that we will accept and will not accept. Now, you provide us with your proposal. And then part of that proposal is bringing a bunch of lawyers to a boardroom and the prospective client asking them questions. So that's the first thing, is these RFPs. The second thing is clients are saying, we're not really comfortable with the fact that there's just the fees could be this or they could be that. We want some assurance. And so we want a fixed fee bid. We want a fixed fee for this transaction or this piece of work. What that has resulted in is, and actually specializations, which your students may be quite interested in, specializations and a lot of focus by law firms on how long it takes to do certain things, certain tasks. If we have to incorporate, if we have to do a share purchase agreement, if we have to do, due diligence, how long does that take? Look at our history and transactions. How long does it take? How many people do we need involved? What level are they at? What do they bill at? And then you gather enough of that information, and it's helpful to give some perspective on what your bid might be or what your fixed fee might be. That's very popular with clients, the fixed fee, but and then there are times you're going to go over that fixed fee, and that gets into client relations and really keeping up to date with exactly where you are in terms of the fees that will be billed to that client. And if you hit this level, a call saying this is what's happened, we're going to exceed that. So the fixed fees is another area that's continuing to grow and evolve. And as I said, there is a specialization that people can take in terms of law firm management. It's not just for lawyers. So that's something to maybe check out. The third, another way I would say it's changed is you see this a lot in litigation, which are they take a percentage of the fees as or percentage of the award of fees that the client gets from court in, let's say, a personal injury court. So in that case, lawyers have to be, and law firms have to be very careful in selecting which cases they take on with that percentage fee, in terms of how likely do we think we're going to be to win this case? How long do we think it's going to take? How much do we think it's going to take? How many specialists are we going to need? How many, what are we going to have to do? Because at the end of the day, you're sitting and waiting for a fee for some time often. So, that's another thing that has been developing for quite some time, but it is another offshoot of traditional fees, which were billable hour. The final point I'll note is on this is that you see firms now accepting, for example, Bitcoin for fees. You see firms, some firms with entrepreneurial practices, after very careful evaluation, accepting maybe equity in a startup as compensation for the fees. So those are some developments that I've seen from the time that I started to sort of now in law. But getting away from that billable hour, it's really tough. It's really tough.
And it's also certainly interesting because, whatever you're talking about, when you could apply that to other areas, right? Like we could be talking about law, but it could be like a supply chain, right? Because it's the same process. People want to have more certainty, and people are being more creative. I mean, I think, where you don't have as much, regulation like from the law side in other areas where that's the perfect kind of, you pay with equity in the company, right? And you get the services, and then we get equity. And if you feel that you've hit the jackpot, so to speak, with that company, then you're going to get such a good return on the work you do. I mean, of course, then the flip side is also there is that, well, you get equity in a company that's not worth anything, then you did all that work and, it doesn't pay off, right? It's the same thing on a contingency fee, right? If you're like, you don't look over the law or the case or the facts or whatever, and you take it on contingency and you get 33%, and well, if 33% of nothing, well, it's still nothing, right? So a lot of things to be mindful of when you're looking at different ways outside of your traditional hourly rates. The other thing, the other big,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say the other big thing is two letters now everywhere. AI, right? You're seeing AI and what can be done in the legal field and other fields. So I know you maybe had another point to add there, but maybe you can also incorporate there what are the impact that you see AI in the legal field and even in the business field, where your students in the program are well, how do we leverage this to be better and to be effective? Because if we're not, then the jobs are going to be lost to the people that are using it properly.
That's a very good point, and in fact, it ties in with our discussion about fees, for example. So, are there efficiencies which can be achieved using technology and artificial intelligence, where maybe it doesn't get us the whole way? Well, it certainly will not get us the whole way, but maybe it gets us, it cuts out a certain amount of time, a certain amount of research time, for example, that a junior lawyer would need, or a law clerk or a paralegal would need to spend, and we can kind of move forward, and it's less expensive to get to point B than it would be traditionally. So, as an example, Professor Allary at the University of Toronto was the primary pioneer, I believe, of this. But there's something called was called Blue Jay Legal, which is a company. He was a professor. He's a professor at the law school, but also created this form of AI specific to tax. And I think they've broadened it beyond tax. But the thing about tax and tax litigation, and really any litigation in many ways, is, what is your problem? Okay. We're in common law, right? What have the courts said before about your situation? And then based on that, what do we think? How do we think they might rule? How do we think they might decide on this point? Well, Blue Jay Legal created this tax AI tax program, where for many questions in tax law, you click on certain things, answer certain questions, and then you hit run, and it will provide an answer. It'll provide an answer that says yes or no, probably various permutations in between, and then it will tell you, here's the case law that we think a court would would use to make this decision, and that supports that decision. Here's some case law that you might use to argue your position, which may be opposite what the program found the court find. And here's different judges and quotes from different judges, but here's our view as the machine as to what the likely outcome of this tax case will be. That is used by the Canada Revenue Agency, which is, for those who don't know, the arm of the government that actually implements and operates the federal income tax system. It is also used by numerous firms as an assist, as to help them in terms of giving better advice, making better choices, taking some of the gambling out of certain decisions. And I think we're going to just continue to see these types of programs. So are they important? Are they going to grow? Yes, absolutely. They're relevant in law. They're relevant in virtually any field. I still think, and you know what? I think they are good tools. I think they're good tools to use to start with, because it can get you further down the road quicker, and it can help you not only in finding law or in finding cases, but in writing. If English is not your first language in terms of writing, it can help you get there. The mistake is just relying on that. It's a good start, I think, and it's a good tool, but you can't just stop there. You got to take it the next step, because what am I looking for? What are you looking for when you read an assignment? What are you, when we hear a presentation? We're not just looking for what everybody can find in research. We're looking for that secret sauce. We're looking for that extra bit of understanding and application. So AI is good. It's important. I think it's part of the process, a good tool, but it can't take you all the way.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, both in education and in law, and I mean everywhere. Of like, where are the limitations, and how to kind of avoid making those or falling those traps. I mean, there was like those lawyers in the U.S. that were citing made up cases, and they would,
Yeah.
again, you need to at least do a quick double check of apply it, or take that piece and then check it, and then use it accordingly.
Yeah. So what we're talking about in a lot of ways here is evaluating the value of the data and the information that you have. You can't just say, no, I just accept this universally and I'm not going to check it. And again, it goes to we teach managerial accounting, for example, at Trios. Managerial accounting is about cost of the process, cost of the step. We talked about law firm managerial, bid managerial type of positions. That's what all this is. This is all part of that. So yeah, maybe we can get a step ahead using AI or using certain technology, but is the numbers, is the data correct? Because if it's not correct, then we might as well not be using it. So yeah, I think you're quite right to break that down into the units of information. Are they correct? You have to check them. If you don't, it's probably not going to end well.
Well, now, David, I guess maybe I want to transition over to what you're doing now. And again, so many interesting things. As I said earlier, you went from playing, NCAA hockey, you got your accounting, you got into law, you practiced law for a long period of time, then got your master's of education, and 60 applications later, you got into to teaching, and then you've now gone into the business program coordinator here at Trios College. So tell me a bit more about like that last transition, because I mean, yes, as you've said before, from going into accounting into law, and say, well, there's the overlap here, right, in tax law, and you did it for so many years that, and I know certainly the family background in education, but at what point did you say, like, it's time to go into something different, something I really want to do? I mean, people find it hard, especially in business, right? That, if you're doing something for 15, 20 years and you're really good at it, then you kind of start all over, where, and you had that humbling experience too, right? Where it's just like, well, hey, if I went to a tax firm, right, I I wouldn't even need to apply. Somebody would call me and say, hey, are you thinking of maybe coming over here? Here's what we could put together for you. And now you're like, well, all these applications later, nothing's materializing. How do you go through all that? And certainly, I have students like that, the same thing, that they're coming back and starting from square one. Anything to share about that experience and that decision there, and sort of pushing through and starting over and getting into education?
Yeah. Well, there. First of all, I think it's important that we all not get too big in our britches, and that humility is an important characteristic, an important thing for all of us. Not to get too far down the road. Do work hard, and recognize sometimes this is just all part of the journey. Okay, and for me that was the case. How did I decide? I decided because I got to a point where the demands of being a lawyer are such, rightfully so. The demands of being a lawyer were such that, I was not enjoying what I was doing. I mean, I was doing it because I'd always done it. And I got to a point where, there's a saying, find something you love to do and you'll never work a day in your life. Now, I don't think that's quite that simple, but I got to a point where I said, you know what, I think I can do well at this. And, I think that on my deathbed, am I going to say, I wish I'd practiced law for more for more years and not gotten into education when I'm really passionate about education. And to that, I have to add an exceptionally supportive family, because that's a big move. Some outstanding mentors who were very supportive of that. And it was a process. It was a process of really thinking about what I want to do and what do I want to be? What do I want to try to be? So what I would say is, to the students, listen, 60 applications. We've talked about that to get into law. There were a lot of applications in law. Okay. When I started out, there were a lot of applications before that. It is not uncommon. It's very common, I think, in fact, that we all, domestic, international, we have to apply, and we have to keep going, and you have to keep applying. And yes, it is difficult. It's difficult mentally. It's difficult. You get down, you got to keep going. You need only one yes, and you will get the yes. But you got to keep pushing. You got to keep going, and you got to realize, the other thing I would say is, you may have an end goal in mind, okay, where you want to be. Where I wanted to be full-time in education. I was not going to be able to get that right away. It became very clear. So a first very good step for me was getting one course. Okay. Now, I didn't want to just teach one course forever. I wanted to, but I have to get in first. I have to take that step. So, if we're to wind up this sort of period about it, what I would say to students, what I learned myself is, listen, getting somewhere is, you can't view it as a sprint. I know it's very hard to trudge along and you're not getting exactly where you want to get, but that's the process. And everybody has a different process. Everybody has a different journey they're going to take. Don't be afraid to set up those mini steps, those steps that get you towards what you're trying to get to, though they may not be all the way, but there's relevance, because as you take those mini steps, you're going to meet more people who are in the field that you want to be in. You're going to make some friends. Even if you don't get hired, you never know if a human resource person is going to get call with one of their friends from another school and say, for example, in my case, hey, I had this guy apply, you might want to think about him. Be very persistent, be very specific about your journey and about the steps. Keep the end goal in mind, but recognize it takes everybody a long time to get there. And so just keep going and have faith. It will work out if you keep at it. It will not work out as you'd like it to if you stop. So yeah, that's, in many words, that transition period for me.
And it's also interesting. I mean, again, I think certainly relatable to students and the paralegal students, and maybe probably as well the business students, right? Is that we're not in that time period where it's just, here's your job offer. We're going to take you and we want you for 9 to 5 or 9 to 8 or whatever the law hours or business hours are. But part of that is as you said, you start with one course and then build on it. But people can start equivalently with, maybe you get a little bit of work, part-time work for a lawyer or for a business, right? I mean, depending, they may not want to take you on, or they may not be able to commit financially to providing you full-time work. But if you take a piece here and a piece there and put it all together, again, either in the business world or in the legal world, that can work, right? So maybe you can talk a bit about that and that sort of entrepreneurial hustle there of building accordingly.
So the first thing I would say in law, but also in business, look for clinics, look for legal aid clinics, look for law societies, regional, look for business clinics, and volunteer. Yes, you're not getting paid, but if you can get in there and get some experience, it is going to pay off, and it's going to help you in terms of getting somewhere else where you are going to get paid. So that's the first thing. The second thing is something that I try to embrace in my life, which is if there was a personal philosophy of my father, I think this would be it. And he would say, be there. Be there. And be there meant a lot of different things. It could mean get to the puck first in hockey, but it could also mean, you know what? You want to get there. You want that opportunity. Find a way. Be there. Look, keep looking. And so what we see, I think what is becoming quite normal in business and law is let's look at chunking. Let's look at piecing. Let's look at that side hustle. What can you do right now that you could start at your dining room table, let's say, with relatively little risk? What could you do right now that is somehow related to what it is, where it is you're trying to go? So as a paralegal or as a law clerk, is there something you can do where you can volunteer with somebody like a community or cultural legal clinic, where you could be even the person that takes the names in, okay? And then you get a little bit of experience incorporating companies, let's say, or what can you do? Can you put together a bunch of precedent documents of incorporations, of general partnerships, of limited partnerships that you have in front of you that are good, that you could base, a small business on? Because remember, most businesses are small businesses. They're not huge businesses. They want, they want help, and they're not prepared to go to Bay Street to get it. So, okay, we look at that. Then how can we build on that? How can we make ourselves more in demand? What do businesses want apart from, let's say, incorporations and maintaining the minute books? Well, a lot of businesses, small family businesses, want bookkeeping. So we take some classes at Trios at Toronto Southwest campus in Sioux College Partnership, but also in the Trios program. We take some courses on bookkeeping. Take some online. There's a ton of online stuff that is free. Take some courses. Learn to do QuickBooks. Learn to do Sage 50. Okay, now you've got, in addition to this, what you're developing your ability to do certain law clerk and paralegal work. Now you can also say to clients when they come to you, I can do your minute books, or I can do your books, your financial books. Now, where does that lead to? So again, we think, okay, these businesses, everybody thinks tax is really, really hard. It is, well, it is in some respects. If you're working with a small business, you can there's a free course right now on the Canada Revenue Agency website for personal income tax. There are other courses that are free or for a small fee. Take some of those courses, learn how to use a basic tax software program, and learn how to prepare basic personal tax returns and basic corporate tax returns. If you can do that, now what we've got is we've got some legal work that you're building into. We've got some bookkeeping work, accounting, bookkeeping work, and that feeds into preparation of the tax work, tax returns. Then what can we do from there? So let's always be thinking about the steps and be creative and, just keep moving forward. And so that's, I'm not sure that I answered the question, quite frankly, but I would say, be there and keep going. Okay, this is where I want to get to. Okay, how am I going to get there? And I understand it's not going to be tomorrow, but how can I get there? Because I will get there if I keep at it. And then look to build pieces through volunteer work, through creating your own work, through networking. Join a business improvement association. Go to their meetings. Go to a Chamber of Commerce meeting. Go to a legal aid or a business clinic. you're going to meet all kinds of people. You're going to learn all kinds of things, and it's going to be helpful.
One of the things, certainly, I mean, since we went to law school years ago, right? I mean, that wasn't there. Maybe it's changed, but and we do have it in our paralegal program, and certainly you probably have it in the business program. Is more of understanding, the entrepreneurial spirit, right? In terms of, you can be the best lawyer, you can be the best paralegal, you can be the best, in tax or accounting or whatever, but what about getting clients, getting your name out there? Now you're talking about networking and joining, meetings, Chamber of Commerce, law associations, the OBA, CBA, all of that as well. But what can you do, or what that students may be not realizing is, once they get out there, what are some of those skills that they need to pick up to build, like you're saying about all these pieces here to help build, because it's just as much the non-legal as it is the legal, and just as you're teaching, your business students, right, that it's great to know all of these things, but you still need to build the business in order to get the the revenue.
Yep. And that's a really, really good point, is that again, it's that secret sauce. Okay. We can have all the knowledge, we could be really, really smart, and we can have done everything right in school. But if no one comes to us, it's like if we have the best idea in the world, but no one knows about it, what do we have? So, in terms of entrepreneurial, in terms of building the business, in terms of looking for avenues, the first thing is look for free avenues. And there are a lot of them, okay? Like LinkedIn, I know it takes some time, but set a schedule that I am going to post, maybe once a week, and I'm going to find one thing. And in that post, don't just post something else. Say your opinion. Say why this is important. And it doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be long. So LinkedIn is an example, and you can build your profile on LinkedIn in terms of your byline and your headline, in terms of your picture, in terms of your summary and about, and your experiences and what you've done in those experiences, whether they are overseas or here. There's a lot that can be communicated that way. Another, like you said, there are organizations, look for the organizations. In every community, there are what I call flag wavers. These are the people who are really, really positive, and they want to help people in their community. And if you can connect with them in community centers, in business improvement associations, they will often help you, because you're part of, they see you as contributing to the better good. So those, always look for the people who are very positive, and as much as possible, you don't want to be unrealistic, but surround yourself with positive people who are can do, people who don't just see the problems, they see solutions. The other thing that you can do is speak. Now you can record yourself speaking and post that on LinkedIn or on Facebook or on, YouTube, and you can take a 5-minute, 3-minute, whatever issue. You'd be surprised how valuable a lot of people find just little bits of information. And your device, you can record yourself with, to start out with. It doesn't take much, and you can put yourself out there as an authority on certain things. Just keep doing that. So this week it is, when you want to make sure that you've entered into a contract, here's 5 things you need to look for. Okay. In business, how in business, how do most businesses where do most businesses acquire certain products? What do most businesses say about this question or that question? Statistics Canada, what is that telling us about Canada, and how does that impact business? Beyond that, what we try to promote in the business program is we try to promote any and all opportunities that we think are relevant or could be relevant to our students finding their success. And that's not at the end, that's steps. So mentorships. There's a lot of programs out there that will provide free mentors. And these mentors are people who have experience in what you want. They're good people to know. They want to help you. They will help you. They'll introduce you to other people. At Trios, we have Devant. Okay, Devant just the other day announced their mentorship program. There's another mentorship program. Okay. Again, look for your chambers of commerce. Look for groups on LinkedIn. There's different groups for different things that you study. And just look for any opportunity to get your, within reason, to get your name out there, and recognize that for a time, life is going to be very busy. Okay, because that's what it takes. It takes looking at different avenues, different options to help you get to the next step and continue on from there. And what I would say is, when you get to the next step, so let's say you start a little side hustle business, you're an entrepreneur from Trius Business Strong, we say, or you're from the paralegal program. Let's say you start that business, little business. Now look, when the new students come in, look and find which of those students you think could help you and would be interested. Now you bring that student in and a little bit of training, and now they can look after the really simple clients, and you can go out and you can get some more clients. Okay. So look at building alliances and look at groups, volunteer groups, charitable groups. Ask them, call them, ask them, can I come in and do this for you? I won't charge you. But if I do it a few times, well, that's a great start. And through all of those things, you're going to gradually build the foundation for where you want to go, but you got to keep at it.
Now, David, you were mentioning LinkedIn there, and you were mentioning a couple of the hashtags you have, right? Trius Business Strong and the Trius Entrepreneur. So maybe you could tell us a bit more about the program, about those hashtags. Maybe you could highlight some of the students, like you've been doing a great job, in terms of people. You were saying the positive people you want to surround yourself with. That's how I connected. And I was like, look, and then I didn't even realize the whole legal background on top of that, right? Which was a cherry on top there, so to speak, in terms of our talk here. But tell me more about these hashtags and posting about the program and just the program itself for anyone that may be interested in it as well.
Yeah, sure. So there are two programs in the SUE partnership with Trios College. So SUE College we run at Trius College, Toronto Southwest, and at the Brampton campus, we run several programs for SUE College at our campuses. I'm the program coordinator, rather, for the business, and they say business and accounting sometimes, but business program. And then there's a global business program. The business program provides students with a very broad foundation in terms of skills and knowledge and practical skills we really focus on for going into business. And really, almost everything is business in one way or another, is it not? Whether you're in healthcare leadership, whether you're a paralegal, whether you're a cybersecurity guy that offering consulting services, you need to know business. You need to understand it. You need to know that managerial accounting. You need to be able to look at financial statements and have a view. Maybe you're an investor. You got to be able to look at financial statements and reports and say, okay, I see what's happening here. Well, maybe they're using too much cash, or geez, they're really heavily financed, leveraged. So those are accounting examples, but we provide the foundational courses in those first two semesters that you need you need to have them in order to build on them in terms of the expertise. So we move from a very broad into more narrow and more focused and more specialized. So we're getting into international business law, not just business law. We're getting into organizational behavior, not just human resources. We're getting into entrepreneurship after we've gone through marketing 1 and 2. We're getting into a business simulation, which is actual game where you're playing against colleges all over the world. And it's a business that you have, and you have to make decisions. And then your outcome is ranked each week against all these colleges. And I'll tell you, our business students and our GBM students from Trios very frequently are ranked in the top 25, if not the top 10 internationally. So that's a real accomplishment. So what I say is our business program sets you up to go in a whole bunch of different avenues. Hopefully during the process, you're going to find something that you're passionate about, something you really love, okay, whether it's human resources or whether it is entrepreneurship. And what I say is, yeah, we provide in-class learning. We are trying because learning the theoretical is important. It's not enough. The students that come to our college, many of them have degrees already. They have experience already. So we want to harness that and we want to build on that. And so we want to help them in thinking, how can what I do here, what I'm learning, be applied in life? So I say to all the students, always ask why. Always ask why. Why am I doing this? And if you can't figure out how this is relevant to what you want to do, ask your instructor. It is relevant. So the idea is that, okay, we've got the theory, we've got the classroom. Now, in addition to the experiential learning in classroom, we're going to add another layer. We're going to have people come in who have sat in your seats as international students and who have gone through the process and have created a business or have entered a certain field as a career. And they can talk very knowledgeably about what was involved and what were the challenges and what were the good things that happened and what are the things that they did that worked and what were the things they wish they maybe had known before. And as part of that, we want to introduce students to a whole bunch of different ideas. So the ideas, I want to be in business. Well, that's wonderful. Business is very broad. What do you want to do? One of our speakers, Saul Navarro, gave an outstanding workshop on doing market research in Toronto and finding there was no Mexican coffee shop. Now, I didn't know there was a difference with Mexican coffee, but there is. He imports Mexican coffee, 3 types of Mexican coffee, and he offers Mexican coffee and very Mexican-based meals at La Rosaria coffee shop in Cabbagetown. Well, who would think, okay, I'm going to go do a coffee shop? Well, now maybe you're thinking, maybe I'm not going to do a coffee shop, but maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a pre-order food service for students. So you're going to contact me and you want cultural food from your own culture. I will make that for you, freeze it, and I'll give that to you. Okay. Then we have another guy come in, another instance who came in and was talking about being a real estate agent. Real estate is a great opportunity for many people, and real estate is also something that you can do on the side. So you don't have to sell 100 houses a year for real estate to make an impact on your stability, on your financial performance. Let's say you sell 2, 3, 4 houses. Okay, what is the average commission of a real estate agent in Toronto?
Like 2.5%.
Maybe a little bit higher, but yeah. What's the average price of a house in Toronto?
$1 million, I believe.
Mm-hmm. What do you think is about the average price of, let's say, a condo in Toronto?
Maybe half that.
Mm-hmm.
600.
So do you think if you let's just go with 2.5%. Do you think if you sold 4 at 2.5% commission, that is going to impact your financial stability?
I can't do the math in my head,
I'm going to tell you that I think it will. It's not going to mean you're going to go buy a horse farm up in Aurora, but you can combine real estate. It's something you can do on nights and weekends. Now, you're not going to be the super duper real estate seller that is on the sides of buses, but you're not trying to be. Okay. Mortgage broker. We had a guy in to talk about being a mortgage broker. Well, what does that mean? What does that involve? This guy developed those skills to be a mortgage broker, and at the same time, he is studying to be a CPA. So people putting things together, people taking different avenues, using their creativity to come up with things that in some cases they can start at their dining room table. Sometimes more, but coming up with things, being creative, not just saying, okay, I have to get a job in the bank. I have to get a job in the bank, and I can't get a job in the bank until I get my diploma. Well, that may not be true. Okay. What opportunities are there in a bank for people without a diploma? What opportunities are there with certain cultural credit unions? What about this mortgage brokering business? Is that relevant to an opportunity in a bank? What about real estate? Is that relevant? What about going and carrying the population, the demographics in Canada? Where are they going? Canada's getting old. Okay, Canada is getting old. The population segments that are actually growing at the age of university or college students are Indigenous people and international students and immigrants. Those are the two. So if Canada is getting older, there might be a lot of old people. What kind of things do older people, and I say this as a semi-old person, what do they need? They're not, they want to stay in their homes for as long as possible. Do they need like someone who's going to do a hyper hospital level cleaning every week? No. What if you did a very basic cleaning? What if you came in, cleaned out their fridge once a week, and put in new stuff and package that with buying groceries and bringing them to them? And then maybe you package that with a PSW diploma. So there are lots of opportunities. You got to think creatively, and our goal with the Entrepreneurial Society is to help our students not get beyond the classroom and see different opportunities and learn from people who have thought differently, and then hopefully see in themselves opportunities that they can pursue to help them get to the point where they find their success. So we say hashtag Try Us Business Strong, and we say hashtag the Try Us Entrepreneur, because we as a faculty and as a student body, we are strong, we are capable, and we have a bunch of people who are going to be a bunch of students who are going to be great entrepreneurs. And the history of entrepreneurship, I will tell you, in Canada is in large part from immigrants. Entrepreneurs in Canada for many, like for a long time, they're immigrants. So we have a lot of international students. Let's not reinvent the wheel here. Let's just get people thinking. And once you start thinking, and once you start finding something that you're passionate about, that you're interested in, that you know about already, a lot of people know a lot of stuff, and they say, well, what did you do? I say, what did you do? And they say, oh, I was an engineer. Okay, great. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean that you can do basic websites? Okay, now we've got that. Think about what you can do. Think about the skills you have. Think about what you want to do and what you love and the components of that. Then do it. Don't plan forever. Do it. Be there. As I said before, be there. Take advantage of the opportunities. And if it doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world.
Now, David, what's kind of related to that is that when you're saying be there, for students sometimes, I mean, in any field, sometimes they think simply when they look at those words, right? It's like, well, I just need to show up and everything's just going to come at me. But no, you got to meet us halfway too, right? In terms of the programs and be involved, take advantage of the things that you were mentioning, the guest speakers or asking those questions and leveraging, your knowledge, but as well being proactive. And you've given so many different examples of, in the legal community and the business community of things that you can be involved with. So what would you share kind of for students, in terms of there's more than just show up to class, to really thrive and succeed in your studies?
That's a really good question, and that's a really important point. And what it means for different students differs really. But what I would say to students is why did you take this risk? And it's a big risk coming from the other side of the world to Canada. Why did you take that risk? One reason, I mean, there are various reasons, but what did you think you were going to get? What do you want to get? And so, as I said before, I don't care if you're me or if you're a student that's from the Philippines. The path for very, very few of us just automatically succeed. Very, very few of us, and I would say not like I would say not many at all. The path to success to many seems, wow, look at what they're doing. It's great. That path has been they've been on that path for a long time. The journey to success, the journey to having opportunities, the journey to breaking through from that, what we might call survival job that you need when you first get to Canada. You don't necessarily, well, if you do want to stay in that job, okay. But my assumption is you want to get somewhere else. You want to get to something else that you're really passionate about, you're really interested in. The journey to break through to that job, it takes time, and it takes having some faith that we as instructors, including you in your classes and in our business faculty and in general, our instructors, are committed to trying to help students find their success, and that we will offer opportunities that we believe, based on our experience and our academic knowledge, we will try to offer experiences for them that will help them in some way. We don't just do things for the sake of doing them. So if an instructor offers you to meet with somebody and says, I just think this would be a good person to meet and talk to, or an instructor offers you an opportunity to do some take leadership over some unique little project, do it, be there. That's all the type of stuff that is going to lead you to or help you find what you feel is success. And there's no stopwatch we can put on when that's going to happen. That's just the reality. For me in education, it was quite a long time. It was 60 applications, but 60 applications weren't done in 1 month. Okay. For somebody else, I'll tell you, we have one student. This is an example, a real example. We have one student who is exceptionally qualified in the accounting field. And I taught this student in their first semester, and this student has also worked for multinational corporations before coming to Canada. This student is somebody that employers should really want. This student is graduating now, soon, and the student is now in a position at an accounting firm where the student should be. Like the opportunities are there. But this student has been working at that from semester one in an insurance company, in a company that was overseas that helped people who were coming to Canada. That process takes time, and that was her process, and it was, it was frustrating for me because I saw this. But you know what? She kept moving, and she got there, and she took advantage of every opportunity that we threw at her. So what I would say is, if you have something you really want to do, if you have something you were passionate about, tell your instructor and say, how do I get there? They will help you. If you're trying to figure out what it is you want to do, attend sessions, take every opportunity that exists. Devant has webinars, Career Services has interview workshops and resume workshops. They have speakers in. Go to all of that stuff, and that is going to help you. It's going to help you be a more well-rounded person, and B, it's going to help you refine a little bit what it is that you're after. But take advantage of all of it, because once you're out of this place, this stops being free. Once we get into families and kids, the time is just not there to do it. And there aren't necessarily people who are willing to help you in this way. I mean, there are, but they're hard to find once you're out of the academic environment. So if we offer you mentors, take them. What's the worst that can happen? It doesn't work and you stop. I'm not sure that I answered that question. I said a lot, but fundamentally, you got to take those different opportunities. You got to be there. And just when you think you can't do any more, persist. I have confidence that you will find what you're looking for.
Perfect. So, David, thanks so much for taking the time and joining us here and sharing all sorts of knowledge and all different areas that we've covered quite a lot here in the last hour. So, to kind of wrap it up in a nice bow here, do you have any final words of wisdom for anyone listening, students in particular, either in my program, in your program, anything that we can wrap up? And once again, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah. Again, I would return to what my father always said to me, which is be there. You can apply that in anything. Be there at the job. If your employer says, is anyone volunteer to do this other job? Be there, take that, do it. You're going to get, recognized for doing that. If there's extra seminars, be there, go, be part of it. You've got to get off the bench in your life to move forward. You can't just stay on the bench. You got to put yourself out there, and you got to take some risks, and you got to move beyond, what feels comfortable. I mean, what is this saying that I heard down in Massachusetts? Boats are safe in port, but that's not where boats are supposed to be. Boats are supposed to be out in the ocean where there's risk, where there's waves, where things are bumpy. That's living.
So thanks so much again, David, and thanks for everyone for tuning in. Wish you all the best. Take care.
Thank you.